was going to start. Yeah. So the time is now 6:03. I'm calling the meeting to order for this September the 15th Redevelopment Commission meeting. If staff would please take roll call.
Chairman Shaka,
Present?
Commissioner Clausen,
Present.
Commissioner Meehan,
Present.
Commissioner Kendall.
Present.
Mr. Chairman, we have a quorum.
Perfect. At this time, members of the public may comment on matters not on the agenda. The Commission's response is limited to responding to criticism, asking staff to review a matter commented upon, or asking that a matter be put on a future agenda. Is anyone here that would like to address the Commission at this time?
Mr. Chairman, we have no requests to speak at this time.
Perfect. And we're not doing any online requests as well, right? Perfect. So moving on, we're going on to our administrative items. We now move into the administrative item number 1, and that is to consider the approval of the minutes for the regular meeting that was held on August 18th, 2021. Are there any edits the Commission wishes to make? And if not, I'll be looking for a motion for the Redevelopment Commission meeting minutes for August 18th.
Chair Shaka, I move to approve the minutes from last month's meeting.
Perfect. So we have a first from Commissioner Kendall. Do we have a second?
I'll second that.
So we have a second from Commissioner Clausen. I will do a roll call vote. Commissioner Meehan, how do you vote? Do you approve or not approve?
Approve.
Perfect. And we have an absent commissioner. Commissioner Clausen, how do you vote?
Approve.
And Commissioner Kendall, how do you approve?
Approve.
I also approve, so the motion carries forward unanimously. So moving on, we are now doing the public part of our meeting, and items will be heard at one public hearing, at which time anyone wishing to comment on a public hearing item may do so. Comments will be heard from those in support, in, or in opposition to any item. In order to comment on a public hearing item, you must fill out a public comment form indicating the item number of which you wish to be heard. Once the hearing is closed, there will be no further public comment unless requested by a member of the Commission. After the public hearing, the Commission may act on all items not requiring additional staff, public, or Commission comment with one single vote. So staff, if you would please come forward for item 2, DR 21-87, the park conditional use permit.
Good evening, Commissioners. My name is Sydney Bethel, Redevelopment Specialist with the Town of Gilbert. The request before you tonight is DR 2187, the park. The subject site is approximately 0.27 acres and is presently vacant. It's located at the southwest corner of Hearn Way and Bricomte Boulevard, across from the existing Gilbert Hearn Way parking garage. So you previously saw this project at study session on August 18th and provided some feedback. The request before you tonight is a formal approval for the site plan, landscape grading and drainage, elevations, floor plans, and lighting for the same project. There are 2 additional cases that are associated with this project, the first being a conditional use permit to allow entertainment and recreation outdoor. This was approved by the Planning Commission on September 1st, 2021 with a 7-0 vote. There was a condition of approval that was added past when you guys provided your recommendation to prohibit DJs from performing on site. In addition to that, there also is an administrative use permit to allow 25 off-site parking spaces for the project. This was approved administratively by the zoning administrator actually today, September 15th. So that means all of their parking is provided off-site within the Heritage District in a town-owned lot. So this project is part of a master site plan to the existing OSO development. So as you can see, I highlighted in blue the segment that will be added on. So this is intended to be an extension of the existing development and will have an internal connection located on the east side of the site on the southeast portion. Getting into the site plan here, it is split into 3 individual uses as part of this mixed-use site. The first being a retail component that's located on the northern portion of the development, and it's totaling approximately 4,800 square feet. So this retail component will have retail opportunities both along Hearn Way and internal to the site. Located on the east side of the site, we do have a small entertainment module that's approximately a little under 160 square feet. So this is intended mostly to house AV equipment for projectors, but also has a small stage that's 9 by 20, which will allow for small outdoor music type events to occur. So the intent of this is to have small duos perform on here, not large scale. And as I discussed earlier from their conditional use permit, they are prohibited to have a DJ on site from that conditional approval. And also there are those hours of operations that are also on the live entertainment section to end by 10 p.m. Sunday through Thursday, and then 12 a.m. on Fridays and Saturdays. In the center of the site is the proposed concessions module. So this will be run and operated by OSO. So you can get drinks up there, and they will have pre-prepared food completed by OSO. It will operate in a similar manner to that of a food truck. So moving on to the landscape plan here. So a majority of the site internally is all proposed to be Bermuda grass, along with some compacted DG for those pathways. You'll see along Hearn Way and Bryant Boulevard where that is the primary amount of the landscaping plant materials will be located. These plant materials are similar to or within the approved Heritage District Design Guideline plant palette. So just for reference here, I'm just showing you the elevations that you guys saw previously last month. The elevations have not changed substantially since the second submittal, but they did address some of staff and the commission's concerns with some of the items, such as I have highlighted in red the screening for the the roof-mounted mechanical equipment, which has now been changed to a solid material in order to conceal that. And also they did wrap their wood planking around the sides where it is visible from the right-of-way. So moving on to the elevations that are being presented to you tonight, as I said, very similar with those items adjusted in order to comply with staff in the commission. So as mentioned in the study session, this is a single-story development, and in the Heritage Village Center zoning district, you must request from the commission to have a single-story development. The minimum, which I have highlighted there, is 2 stories or 35 feet. So this development, I believe the highest height of this is approximately a little under 15 feet, so it would be single story. So in order to allow for the single story development to be developed in the Heritage District, we did have to add an additional findings of fact. So this is something that is permitted through the Land Development Code, subject to approval from the Redevelopment Commission. And the applicant has provided some renderings in order to give you guys a full picture of what this will actually look like here. So this is looking from the existing parking garage down. And then here's some additional renderings of some of the internal portions along with the external segments of the site. And this one is a long Hearn Way looking at the retail modules. And here's just a closer look at the proposed colors and materials. As you can see, they went with a relatively neutral color palette that's complementary to the standards within the design guidelines, with some wood and glass accent features and orange as some metal accent features on those modules. The lighting proposed is all festival lighting or string lighting, and you can see here they provided a lighting plan of where those attached. All of the lighting proposed meets code. They are shielded. You can see a small detail over in that corner of what those lightings will look like, opposed to the traditional bistro type lights that emit light outwards. This will be shielded downwards in order to comply with those lighting codes. And during the study session, there was quite a large discussion on the occupancy plan and restrooms and all of those things. The applicant has provided a preliminary occupancy plan. So again, this will not be solidified until construction documents, because it's not typically required during a design review submittal, but they provided this in order to ensure that they have the right capacity for the restrooms, since they will be using the existing OSO restrooms here. So here I just have outlined in blue the way of access, how they will get from the park to the restroom facilities. Outlined in red is the men's and women's restrooms facility, and I have up there the plumbing calculation showing that they do meet the requirement per code, and this has all been approved by our building division, and then also their occupancy calculations with the existing OSO along with the new development, which again, this was all part of one plan that was reviewed by our building division. Fencing was also a large discussion on specifically some concerns with the planter portion of the fencing. So the fencing is a combination of a 4-foot steel fence, a solid block wall, and then also some 2-foot planters. So on here, I just provided some of those details so you could see it a little bit more. So those planters are relatively small, but I did provide in the top right corner the tree that they're proposing. I thought the rendering didn't quite show what that tree will ultimately look like up in the corner, so it will be a little larger. It can be up to 18 by 18 feet. If it grows to full maturity, due to it being in a planter, it will stay relatively small, but it will provide some additional height and screening to address some of those concerns with security. OSO will also be providing security for the site, the same security and cleanup teams that they use for their existing establishment. And in addition to that, this has been reviewed by our police department, and it was approved by our police department for the security plan. They did add in gates, so it can be enclosed at night, and some other small modifications in order to comply with some of their requirements. And another discussion was noise specifically. So I kind of touched on this a bit, but I just provided some additional information about that entertainment module. Again, it will be small scale with no DJ and limited hours of operation, and it is required to comply with our noise ordinance. In the bottom left, I showed just a little visual of where the closest residential is located. It's approximately 220 feet away, located to the east, outlined in yellow. Red, I just outlined the existing commercial developments that will enclose this existing development from the surrounding area, and in blue is the subject site. I also, this is not any professional noise study, just was displaying why the entertainment module up in that top right corner was proposed in that location and by that angle in order to try to project the noise outwards to the west side opposed to the east side where that residential is. And as you can see, reflecting back to that red squares in the bottom, that is all existing commercial development. So the surrounding infrastructure will help mitigate some of that noise. And this project was required to be publicly noticed, so a mailing was sent and an official sign was posted on the site. To date, staff has received no comment on the design review application. There was some public comment on the conditional use permit that was related to noise in the live entertainment section. So that additional condition of approval regarding the DJ was added based off of that residents' input and the Planning Commission. So I just wanted to provide you that context, even though we haven't had anyone reach out on this specific application. So staff is recommending approval of the project. There is one additional condition of approval that was requested to be added by the engineering division to just require that in the construction document submittal that any outstanding comments be addressed. The preliminary grading and drainage plan is what this is referring to, and there were just some minor comments that need to be just incorporated into the CD, so it's basically approved with markups, but we just want to make sure to add that condition so that it's clarified for that construction document submittal. And I am available for any questions.
Thank you. Very thorough. Any questions from other commissioners tonight?
I have a question. Do we know the heights for the adjacent commercial and parking structure?
The parking structure is a little over 78 feet at its tallest point, so it's 4 stories. The building, the Barlow offices directly to the west, I am not sure on the height on that. It is single story, so I would estimate that it's around 20 feet. It's a little smaller. The existing OSO building that has a mezzanine in there, I do not know that exact height. Not 36 is indicated by the applicant for that. And then we also have culinary dropout, which is around 32 feet, I believe. So varying heights in that area.
Thank you.
Any other questions from commissioners?
Chair Shaka, I have a question. What's the definition of a DJ?
Commissioner Kendall, we do not have a definition of a DJ in our land development code. So we default to a definition from probably Webster's Dictionary of a disc jockey, since it's not in our land development code explicitly. So we'd follow an agreed upon definition.
So will there be, my understanding is that there's going to be live music on a stage. When there's no live music on that stage, will there be background music played?
Commissioner Kendall, yes, they plan to set up a bunch of small speakers throughout there to create ambient music to be played in the background.
Thank you.
Any other questions, comments? Commissioner Kendall, I'm glad you asked that question because I too had the question about DJ. And sometimes on a Sunday morning, I'll go to Central Phoenix, a place called the Vig, and they have a Sunday morning DJ, and it's actually very light music, and it's kind of a, you know, it's refreshing. It's not going to church, you know. If I don't go to church, then I'm there. But it's that seems to be both a vague term and a subjective term. If it's done properly, I think. I'm not opposed to DJ. Maybe this ship already left the port. And the other language with small scale band, I think that also can be both vague and subjective. Is it a 2-piece, 3-piece? What kind of music? How loud? I know last time you spoke about decibels. I also know the applicant talked about not wanting to cannibalize his own business right next door, so having that harmony between the two. But I feel like you know, when I go to special events or I go somewhere where there's music outside, and if somebody's either it's piped in through speakers or someone's actually making changes on the fly based on the vibe, you know, a little more upbeat, you know, I think a DJ could be appropriate if it's done with maybe more language or definition or instruction. I just think it seems to be a little bit vague to me. So maybe that's the next step. So I didn't know if that was something that the staff wanted to revisit and do it in a way where it didn't hinder, handicap the applicant wanting to create that vibe, because we have right now dead space that now it's going to be live space, right? So it just seems to be a little bit restrictive if it's not maybe clarified a little more.
And Chair Shaka, just to provide some background for that, that condition was done on the fly during the meeting, so that's why it may not be as well I can't think of the right word right now, but basically vetted as some of our other conditions that staff writes previously to the meeting. So I do agree with that. Unfortunately, since it already was approved by the Planning Commission, this commission does not have the ability to amend it. Staff will do their best with the property owner in order to enforce that if issues arise in all of those items, but it would have to be amended by the Planning Commission. We'd have to bring it back to them.
Perfect. And with that, there are 2 more steps after this for the applicant, right? Both the Planning and Zoning Commission and City Council.
Commissioner Shaka, this is the final step for this. So you are the approving body for the design review. The other additional steps from different approving bodies have been completed as of today with the last administrative use permit.
So not our purview here, but they do have to get a liquor license premise for changing their serving premise. And they do have to do construction documents as well. I guess my question, the lead in, is when do you think they might break ground?
Commissioner Shaka, I don't have a timeline on when they plan to break ground, but it would take them at least 3 months to go through construction document submittal and then build. The applicant is here tonight, and I believe the property owner for OSO, so they may be able to fill in some of those additional questions.
And the reason I ask that is because this is a 2-year conditional use permit. So if it takes three months to do the construction documents, 3 months to do a build, if all goes well, they can be open for business in 6 months. And then a couple months before the termination of this conditional use permit, are they coming back here? Or if all's well, it's an automatic. Some towns and some cities do an automatic renewal of conditional use permits if things, you know, are played out per approval. So that was a question as far as timing.
Chair Shaka, so this originally was brought forth as a temporary project, but our code does not have any provisions for a temporary commercial project of this scale. So we do not have any time limits on this project in particular. So they do plan for it to be a shortened amount of time, but from our code and through our conditions, we did not put a specific time limit on their use. So their use runs with this design review. So it runs with the site plan. So it runs the length of what this development. I know that Scottsdale does have those performance measures where you have to come back and get reapproval for your conditional use permit, but Gilbert does not. We just have the ability to revoke a use permit if the conditions of approval are not met.
Go on in perpetuity then, as long as the landlord and the tenant, they have a great agreement, we're not building something different there, it could go on in perpetuity then?
Chair Shaka, yes, they have to follow all of our codes and it can run in perpetuity.
Perfect. So with that, are there any other questions from the commissioners on this?
I have another question. I just would like clarification on our scope with reviewing grading and drainage. I'm reading the summary here, and it's saying that no on-site retention is required, and that it's generally approved and utilizing existing storm drain. And so I'm assuming engineering is going to be reviewing slopes and materials are we reviewing materials and how that drains water? Is that our scope with grading and drainage, or what am I voting for on that?
Commissioner Meehan, so your purview is over the preliminary grading and drainage. So I have the plan showed up on the screen. So that is the one document that you have purview over and that the engineering division has reviewed. All of those additional items will be addressed in construction document submittal, which is just under administrative purview with our development team.
Thank you.
So before I go to the applicant, are there any members of the public that wish to speak on item number 2 tonight?
Mr. Chairman, I have no request from the public to speak on item number 2.
And if the applicant's here, would they like to make any comments or clarifications? All right. Yeah, seeing none, I think staff actually addressed most of the questions. I think also in study session, we had a pretty lengthy meeting last month. And so I think staff's done a great job working with the applicant to address any concerns, questions, or use. So thank you. With that, are there any additional questions from the commission?
Chair Shaka, I have an additional question for the builder and landowner. With it being a temporary commercial development with it spanning indefinitely, what is the plan?
Maybe to state your name and your position.
Robert Gutierrez, 61st Place Architects. I'm not quite sure if I understand your question.
Let me reposition. So, with the 2 years, is there any additional plan past 2 years as far as like a permanent structure or additions or anything like that?
The way the code works, that the structures will be designed as permanent structures. We're putting fire protection systems in it. We have to be to the code. They will be permanent structures. If everything worked out and the owner of the property didn't get a great offer, which eventually he is going to get, it would be there as long as the landlord allowed. So that's the plan, to make it work and to be a part of the community as long as possible until such point that the owner of the property decides to sell it or develop it in some other way. The 2 years sort of, I think the 2 years kind of got in my narrative when I excuse me, when I said 2 years in my narrative, because I did indeed said that, what I was referring to was that at a minimum was the process that it would take. So if the owner got a developer that decided to, this has taken a year. So that if the owner decided to sell this property and somebody decided to build something, it'd take them a year to design it and maybe a year or 2 years to get it through the city. So my point was that we're building smaller structures and we're using the outside because we're not doing a full-on development. We know that the owner of the property at some point would like to get more value for his money. So it could be temporary, but he may love Brian and love having this in his backyard, and it may go on and on and on. So, but everything is being built as it is permanent. That's why the fire department said you have to have fire protection, and we have to have the restrooms, and so it's not temporary because there was no prevention. We searched for that in the beginning, and we were told, too bad, so sad, you have to do it all permanently. So
Thank you.
Yeah, Chair Shock, I have a question for staff. So within our purview, the materials and the color schemes on the exterior elevations, if, for example, I know there was a discussion that staff had recommended at one point, eliminating the arches on these modules. If a suggestion such as that was made, would that trigger the applicant having to resubmit to us? Or could that be done administratively?
Commissioner Clausen, that could be completed administratively. The only things they would have to come back for you for is if they were to do an expansion over 5,000 square feet, or if they wanted to amend one of the conditions of approval. So if they want to come back and provide a flat roof opposed to an arch, they can do that administratively with staff.
Okay. With that, then I have probably a couple comments. Because I think it's very close, and I think it's exciting. I think it's going to be great for the area. I would agree with staff. I think eliminating the arched rooftops could help it aesthetically. And then I guess my only other comment, and I know that the reclaimed wood was an attempt because within the town code we want to minimize the amount of metal surface on the exterior facade. I guess my one question is how long is reclaimed wood going to be in style? There's a really cool project in Carlsbad called Crackheads. It's a similar type of space such as this, and I think they did a pretty good job with the materials. But I think I think it's very close. But I think those are two things that I would potentially consider. Is the flat roof line? I think that kind of streamlines it. And just how long will the barnwood reclaimed lumber trend be in place? But I think that gets into the attachment method, and if it's easy to switch, and if it goes out, you can switch it with administrative approval. So those are, I think, my comments.
Great, good comments. Any more comments?
I have a follow-up question in regards to occupancy and the number of people that are allowed in when you consider restrooms, seating, those types of things. Will there be a control at the front gate that is going to control like who's coming in and out?
Commissioner Kendall, so they would just have their traditional occupancy signs inside of the development. I do not believe they currently track people as they're coming in.
Like a hostess or?
So that's not a mechanism that I know they do. I think Whiskey Row does that for their more nightlife hours. But I don't believe this development would do that. They would just have to comply with the occupancy number.
Thank you.
So that created a question for me. Does the applicant have the right, I would assume so, that if they had an annual event, say St. Patty's Day, and they realize that they're going to have more foot traffic, more attendees, maybe even selling tickets to get in, they could put temporary porta-johnies out, correct? If they wanted to minimize the amount of people going back into their establishment and navigating through, seated patrons. I mean, that could be within their right to have, one-day special event. Would that require special event permit, A? And then B, if it doesn't or it does, could they, within their own rights, put on a couple porta-johnies for a special event?
Chair Shaka, I actually, unfortunately, do not know the answer to that question. If they would be permitted to do that, they would still be restricted to their occupancy either way. So I do not know if that'd be something they'd be able to pursue. But that is just going off of my thoughts. I don't actually know the answer to that question, unfortunately.
That's okay. I think they could probably address that as it came. It's just some places, say downtown Chandler has Murphy's, and they have people starting at 6 a.m. and they have a flow all day. And sometimes just having extra facilities that is more or less a premise extension, but having those extra facilities is always good. That probably would be more of a business decision, but I just didn't know from a staff level or Town of Gilbert would prohibit that, if it's not something shown on the plan. I don't see why they would, if it's temporary and 24 hours. I just was kind of throwing it out there for public record. Are there questions or comments? So if not, then I will close the public hearing for DR 21-87, the park, and we'll look to the discussion for any other comments from commissioners. I'll go first. I think it's a great land use. It's better than dirt, and I think with staff, I think the Town of Gilbert has a great reputation of working with applicants, and the downtown has great dynamics. And so I'm excited for what's presented and what we're approving. And I'm also excited to see how maybe it evolves into something, even if they need to make changes and working with staff. So it's a great use of the space, otherwise dead space. So it's awesome. There's similar venues across the valley like this. And so I think it's a great thing for our downtown. Any other questions or comments? No? So with that, I will ask the commissioners for a motion.
Chair Shaka, I move to approve DR 2187, the park.
So we have a first from Commissioner Kendall. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
And Commissioner Clausen has a second. So I will take a roll call vote. Commissioner Meehan, do you approve or disapprove of the motion?
Chair Shaka, I apologize to interrupt. Staff would just request that you add condition number 4 into the approval. Any outstanding comments from the engineering division shall be incorporated into the construction document submittal. It's not part of your original packet. I apologize for interrupting.
So I'll go back to Commissioner Kendall. I guess restate your motion and then add condition 4 if you want to read it out loud just for record. That'd be great.
Chair Shaka, I move to approve DR 2187, the park, with the addition of 4 for the engineering department.
Perfect. Do we have a second?
I second.
Thank you. We have a first from Commissioner Kendall, a second from Commissioner Clausen. So all in favor, I will look for a vote of approval for the motion that was brought forward. So Commissioner Meehan, how do you vote?
Approve.
Approve. Commissioner Kendall, how do you vote?
Approve.
Commissioner Clausen, how do you vote?
Approve.
And I too vote for approval. So with that, it carries forward for approval. So thank you guys. Thank you, Apple. Good luck to you guys. Thank you. And thank you for the presentation. Appreciate it. And not to put you on the spot for all the questions, but sometimes questions create more questions. So I thank you for your presentation. With that, we're going into the communications part of our time tonight. So I have one announcement. My term is up next month, and so it's a 4-year term. I've enjoyed serving. And with that, I think the deadline for applications are due this Sunday, September 19th. So if you're listening online or anyone here, if you know someone that wants to serve the Town of Gilbert, it's fun, it's interesting, and so I would recommend if you have any friends or family that want to do this, reach out to them. So that's the only event, information I have. Any other? Actually, I'll go to the council liaison now, Commissioner or Councilmember Tilkey.
Oh, there we are. Thank you, Chairman. I just have a couple announcements that I thought might be of interest that the council took some action on. There's the public hearing notice of intent for water improvement system development fees is open until November 16th. We had our 9/11 memorial event and the water tower was lit for that. I hope that you were able to attend. It was a beautiful ceremony and they had the twin blue lights that came on at dark, and it was really nice. I'm sorry the gentleman left from OSO. I wanted to thank them for investing in our downtown. We always appreciate that, and when you're here and you're continued to invest, that's a great thing. Lastly, I just wanted to mention that we had an opening for the pedestrian bridge that goes over the railroad tracks there at the end of Vaughan, and I'm not a bicyclist, but according to Strava app, more than 19,000 trips have been logged over the bridge just since July 30th. And so Parks is estimating that that's probably about 100,000 uses, because that's only one app of all the apps that people use when they bike and hike and things like that. So it's getting a lot of use. If you haven't been there, I hope that you'll go by it. It's pretty exciting. Took us about 8 years to get that one done, but we checked that one off on the list, and it's a great addition to the downtown. And with that, I'll finish my report. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Tilke. With that, I'll look to other commissioners, any current or future events or announcements from other commissioners. Seeing none, I will go to
Commissioner
Yep.
Shaka. I'd like to thank you. If you're not going to seek seating, I'd like to thank you for your experience and mentorship and guidance throughout the last year. My term is coming due. I've reapplied and look forward to taking everything that you've shown me into the future. I appreciate you.
For sure. Thank you. I have one more meeting next month, but I really appreciate that. Yeah, it's been great serving with you guys, and it's nice to see people do their homework. And that was the first thing I learned, 4 years ago, is the staff does a lot of work preparing this, and so being prepared is important. And serving, it's good to make an impact on what we see on our screen and just a mile down the street. But no, I appreciate serving with you guys. You guys are great. So, with that, Amanda Elliott, our staff liaison.
All right. Well, I have a few notes. So first, the Heritage District, we refreshed the banners. So you'll see those. Check those out. We've got Shop, Dine, Explore, and we all also now feature the Learn component of our downtown. So speaking of Learn, to take that off for a minute, the University of Arizona School of Nursing program is building out the 4th floor of the university building. And in the fall 2021 semester, the University of Arizona School of Nursing has 234 students enrolled in our downtown, and Park University has 500 students enrolled. So those are really exciting numbers as we see students bring some new energy into the Heritage District. Opening this fall, Heritage and Home and Forever French Baby will bring children's apparel and home goods in one location at the Heritage Court, which is located off of Gilbert and Cullenber. Wanted to provide a reminder from last month's Redevelopment Commission meeting that a request for proposal for the development of a mixed-use project identified in the 2018 Redevelopment Plan as the South Anchor is open for developers, and that's approximately 2.1 acres. That's at the northwest corner of Gilbert and Elliott Road, and that RFP is open until October 11th. The Fall Downtown Concert Series, which is presented by Openshaw Real Estate Group, will take place each Thursday at 6:30 to 8:30 p.m. Beginning October 7th, and the last one is on October 28th. So it's just a great opportunity to grab a blanket or a lawn chair and bring your family and friends to a concert under Water Tower Plaza. And another friendly reminder that the Gilbert Farmers Market hours change in the fall. So beginning in October, the Farmers Market, which runs on Saturdays, will now be open from 8 a.m. to 12 p.m. And then I'm going to switch and share my screen here for a moment. Okay, I wanted to pull up this web page. So starting on October 6th, ballots will be sent to all eligible voters in Gilbert for the 2021 all-male special election. So in this election, voters will decide on whether or not to approve a $515 million general obligation bond. The streets, transportation, and infrastructure-related improvements bonds would fund projects intended to enhance the safety of our citizens and ease daily commutes. The bond measure would also address aging infrastructure of our community by reconstructing current roads, building new roads and transportation systems, and investing in the transportation-related technology. The bond would be paid for by a secondary property tax within the current rate of 99 cents per $100 of assessed value. So I brought up this screen because this is our webpage, the gilbertaz.gov webpage. And as you can see on this screen, this is all of the information that you can find related to the transportation bond. I zoomed in a little bit here on this map. This is the Heritage District. If you can see my cursor there, that is Gilbert Road. And I'm just going to walk through a couple of the projects and show everyone how to use this page. But if you click on, if you click on the projects, I can't do that while I'm presenting, but needless to say, when you're on this page and you click on one of these orange highlighted areas, it will bring up the project related to the bond. And I wanted to just share the ones that are located in the bond related to the Heritage District. So the first is the Vaughn Avenue ventilator. This is Vaughn Avenue here. Vaughn Avenue dead ends west of Gilbert Road at the Union Pacific Railroad. This project would allow us to parallel the UPRR and tie into Neely, creating an additional entrance and exit to the Heritage District, because we all know that at this point our main entrance and exit is right along Gilbert Road. The project's at 30% pre-design, so this would allow us to continue those efforts. The Vaughn Retention Basin, which is this area right here along Vaughn Avenue. This project would allow for improvements to stormwater drainage. And so based on the stormwater drainage master plan, it really evaluates those capacities and deficiencies and options for stormwater and floodplain management in the Heritage District. So this particular area and this Vaughn Avenue Basin collects a great deal of the water, that's generated from, stormwater runoff from this commercial core. So that will look at those. We also, Gilbert Road is highlighted because we are looking to improve and beautify the raised medians in Gilbert Road between Juniper and Elliott. And then I got a couple more projects. Okay, so then Ash Street realignment. So we know that the Ash Street garage, we realigned Ash right here when this 9.1 acre site was purchased, and it comes adjacent to the Ash Street garage and the university building. This project looks to extenuate Ash Street and bring it down and tie it into Cullenber, again, creating additional traffic efficiencies within the Heritage District. We also have the Phoenix Avenue Pedestrian Mall. That is this space running parallel to the UPRR. The pedestrian mall, at this point, what we are working with the UPRR, we're working to obtain right-of-way, and the intent is to tie in opportunities to traverse along the UPRR without illegally crossing over. And certainly, as part of this overall effort, we will look at how the Paseo, which is that north-south connection, then ties in with the Phoenix Ave and all of the multimodal opportunities to traverse the Heritage District. And then finally, we have in the bond the Heritage District Parking Garage 3. So this is pre-design, design, and construction of an additional multi-story parking garage on a town-owned parcel in the Heritage District. So we're working on a parking master plan that will help us identify some questions around where that parking garage would go, and then ultimately, what does the town do in order to build, maintain, and operate and replace parking infrastructure in the future. So there'll be some policy-related conversations to that, but that parking garage is included in the bond. So I wanted to share that information. This website is a great resource. Again, I'm sorry you can't see it when I'm on Teams, but if you click these orange highlighted areas, you'll actually, where my cursor is highlighting here, it will actually bring up the project details. And it's not just for the Heritage District. For anyone who's watching, you can find all of the projects related to the bond package on this page, and then certainly any frequently asked questions. And there's also a location to submit questions. So look for that ballot starting October 6th. And with that, those are my updates.
Perfect. Thank you for everybody in attendance. With that, I will adjourn our regular meeting at 6:46 p.m. Thank you, guys.